Steal my approach to warming up before all of my lifts. Have you ever wondered how to warm up for your lifts? What's the right way to do it? It seems like some people are telling you need to foam roll into oblivion or warm up for 30 minutes before you can even start lifting. Or some people make it seem like you could just walk in the door and get right under a bar. But you feel like you're not quite ready for either of those things, or you don't have the time to warm up for a million years before jumping into your lift. Today, I'm gonna give you my approach to warming up that I use for both myself and my clients in my programs, the Lyss Method. And so that way you can get in, get warm, and get moving, which is my philosophy on getting ready to get into the gym and get your lifts done, because at the end of the day, we're busy people and we want to get warm and be ready for the activity that we're doing that day, but we don't want to spend all day just warming up in the gym. We want to train too. So we think about your warm-ups. Again, we're going to break down to my philosophy of get in, get warm, and get moving. So the approach that I like to personally take is simply starting with cardio, moving into some of the movement prep of what you're doing that day, and then getting right under the bar. So let's go through it. So the first thing you're going to start up with any warm-up is going to be simply getting warm on a piece of equipment. So what you're gonna simply do is on your bike, a rower, a ski erg, a treadmill, Stairmaster, whatever type of cardio equipment works for you, you're going to do anywhere between maybe 2 to 5 minutes of activity, or gradually increasing intensity, and or potentially some people like to work through gradually increasing intensity intervals mixed in with easy work. The idea is simply that you want to do some sort of cardiovascular activity that is going to get your blood flowing to your muscles across the body and or getting your heart rate elevated. One of the key components to getting warmed up for the gym is simply getting that blood flowing and your body physically elevated in temperature to help prepare for the work that you're doing that day. Now, there's a lot of controversy online about static stretching versus foam rolling before your workout, so I'm going to kind of give you the down low of how I approach this and what I think is the most logically sound way to do this in your own training. And days I'm having a hard time kind of waking up, getting warm, moving for the gym, I do personally love foam rolling just a tiny bit to get me moving and blood flowing to my muscles. The reality is the foam roller, even if it hurts or feels good, isn't doing anything magical to fix our bodies or change our muscles, but it might have some acute short-term benefit on increasing our range of motion and or our stretch capacity in the gym during our training session. So days that I do feel a little bit more tired, I'm having a hard time getting ready for the gym, I honestly like foam rolling as a low barrier to entry way of simply getting my body moving and ready for what I'm doing in the gym. But I am not relying on it to magically fix injuries and or make me the most bendy, flexible person in the world. I'm simply doing it because it feels good, it gets me moving, it gets my blood flowing a little bit more, and it might allow me to loosen up a tiny bit and increase that range of motion in the short term at least, which might benefit my lifts a little bit. So it's okay to do, but you don't need to spend a ton of time on this. I simply go over my main muscle groups that tend to cause me the most tightness or stiffness that feels good when I'm tired going into the gym session for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, pass through everything really quick, and then move right into the rest of my warm-up, or you can simply skip that step altogether. Now, when it comes to stretching versus not stretching before your training sessions, you want to think about doing dynamic movements or moving through your ranges of motion or moving through things more actively rather than passively. If you do choose a static stretch, simply choosing to do that either after your training sessions or on their own is probably better. You want to think about the dynamic active movement, or dynamic stretching as people like to call it, before your training sessions. So something I like to do is things that allow me to move through full ranges of motion in the gym. So something like moving through 90-90 hip raises, or things like lunging T-spine rotations, These things allow me to move actively through those different ranges of motions, or move my joints and or my muscle tissues that I might be using that day through those. And you might sometimes classify those more as a little bit of mobility training, or sneaking that into your warm-up here. Something I love doing with my warm-up as a whole is sneaking in things to it that I might not otherwise do on my own, or I need to be doing anyway, so I'm not just wasting my time only sitting on a foam roller, but actively doing things, or putting components of my training here in my warm-up as well. So the last little trick and hack that I love to use myself and sneak into the Lyss Method training programs is moving some of our core work into our warm-up. Sometimes it's really easy to just start tacking on more and more to our training sessions at the end, but often, especially for my runners and my hybrid trainees or regular everyday people, you're short on time. So adding in an extra 20 minutes of core work or core and accessory type stuff at the end, you can sometimes just substitute that and move that out. So something I love to do simply is to move my core work into the beginning of my warm-up. So I might add in something here, like some dead bugs into my warm-up. Or maybe I'm doing some hollow rocks or hollow holds as part of my warm-up session. So I'm getting that core in no matter what that looks like for you, whether that's your crunching specific core, your isolation, and or anything like that. Moving that into my warm-up is a great way to get warm and get moving, while also getting something ticked off your to-do list for your lift or your workout that day, or doing it before your motivation kind of subsides at the end and you might end up skipping it. Now, after I've done a little bit of warming up and or some mobility or dynamic stretching or foam rolling or just moving through the motions based off what I personally feel like I need that day, I simply go into movement preparation. So exercises that are mimic or similar to what I'm going to be doing that day in the gym. Now this will vary based off what you're doing that day in the gym, but say I'm doing some shoulder workout that day, I might do some banded pull aparts here to get me ready and moving, to get it through my shoulders, or some banded shoulder single arm overhead presses. Or if I'm getting ready to deadlift or do some hinging based patterns, I might do a banded good morning variation. Now, you don't just have to use bands, but you can do lightweight resistance-based movements that mimic, again, the movement patterns you're going to be doing that day. So say I'm gonna be moving into a squat or a quad or lower body-based dominant day, I might do something like some Cossack squats before moving in to my formal lift. Or I might be doing something like simply some overhead walking lunges, something to just get prepared for the day that I have at hand. Now again, this doesn't need to be a lot. 2 to 3 sets of these, usually in RPE, I think of going 5 or 6 with these, just to simply get up and moving and maybe increasing your weight or resistance a little bit from your set to your set. Again, building up to the movements that you're doing that day. Now, if you are going to be doing something that's Olympic lifting based, plyometric based, hopping, jumping, skipping, this is a good place as well to include something that prepares you for those days. So say in my training session today, I was going to be doing plyometrics before my back squats. I might include some pogo hopping or single leg hopping here in my warm up, just to get me ready and moving and prepared for that type of bouncing or jumping or reactive type training, and I'm not just going into a cold. So again, your warm up should mimic and prepare what you're trying to get into that day. All right, let's get under the bar. All right, now that you are done with that part of your warm up, we're gonna finally get under the bar and get ready for our actual working sets. Now, simply for most people, even the strongest of us all, we are starting our first set with just the bar. My best advice for you guys, especially beginners or people who aren't familiar with lifting, treat your warm-up sets like you are going to treat your working sets. Treat them with intention and move through them, because one of the biggest things that is also a part of warming up is not just getting your blood flowing, it's getting your neuromuscular system ready for the execution of the day. And so the goal of your warm-up sets in the gym is to slowly increase your body's nervous system's ability to contract and recruit muscle fibers to produce force output that allows you to lift those heavy weights in the gym. So all you're trying to do in this is gradually increase the weight that you're doing and making jumps towards your working sets or your top sets or your heaviest main lift sets of the day. So say that you're going to the gym and you have 3x6 back squat today at an effort of 7 or 8 out of 10. You're not gonna just jump right into that. You're going to start with the bar and gradually start adding weight to that bar so your body can gradually increase that neuromuscular recruitment of your muscle fibers so that you can start getting better at recruiting those to produce more power output. And then by the time you get to your working sets, you aren't either undershot or fatigued getting to it. So it's a sweet spot between not wanting to do a million sets to get there, but making jumps appropriately to that. Now, the stronger you are, the more jumps you might need to make to get that, but I'm assuming most people watching a how to warm up video aren't a elite male powerlifter deadlifting 500 to 700 pounds. So I'm gonna be under the assumption here that you are a mere mortal like the rest of us, and you're going to be taking somewhere between 2, 3, maybe 4 total warm-up sets to get to your working set for the day. With clients, I like to program 3 sets total, a bar set, and then 2 jumps towards their working set for the day, with the guidelines and flexibility of if you need a 4th set or you're working towards bigger weight jumps, you might need an extra set in there to get you there for the day, but we don't want to be taking 5, 6, 7 sets and making ourselves so fatigued before we actually get to that main working set of the day. So first, we're gonna start here with our classic empty bar thing. Again, taking it intentional, going through it like we would our true working sets of the day. Racking, and then loading more weight. You don't need to rest for a super long period of time during these things. Thinking about 30 to 60 seconds of rest, you're basically reloading the bar and getting back after it. Now, for those of you who don't know what jumps to make in your warm-up and or have any idea of how to work up to your working set, I have a free resource for you I'm gonna attach in the notes below. I have a free reps and sets calculator that you can get that will allow you to both calculate your working sets in the gym, but also your warm-ups working up to those working sets in each day. So that will be linked below, and I'll also leave it in the comments. So make sure you get that. It's a totally free calculator and resource for you guys to use that allow you to kind of get an idea of where you should actually be loading the bar towards that day. Because someone like me who can squat in the 200 pounds range might jump right up to 135, putting 45s inside this bar. But someone like you who potentially may be weaker or stronger than me may or may not just jump up to 135. You may want to start with just the 25s or 10s on each side. And that will allow you to figure out the jumps for you each day. Because also my squat warm-up weights and jumps are going to be a lot different than maybe my overhead press or my deadlift warm-up weights or my bench press. So you might have to start or adjust for that. So I have a free resource, a link here below for you guys as well. So next, we're gonna wanna be putting on our weights to make the jumps for the warm-up for the day. So for me, if I'm doing my working sets, I might be doing something closer to, say, 200 pounds. So I personally start with just the 45s, but if you aren't quite that strong, that's totally okay. You can start with the 25 pounds or 35 pounds to help you make those jumps up to the day. So I usually like doing maybe about 8 to 10 body weight or barbell-based squats before moving into these. But I also like making the warm-up weights and jumps of what I'm doing each day in the gym before working to my working set based off of the reps that I'm doing that day. So we talked about maybe I'm doing somewhere 3x6 back squats here today. I hope that's the number I said before. And I'm gonna jump up to here. Now, I don't think I need to be doing 6 total sets here, but I might be doing 4 total sets here and keeping up with that. But the number of reps that you do, getting closer to that working set that you do, might descend and become less. So I might be doing 10 with the bar, maybe 4 or 5 with this weight, and then maybe 3 to 4 with the next weight, and then jumping into my working set weight. You don't wanna do a working set or a main set or 6 out of 7 to 8 out of 10 effort for all of your warm-up sets just to get there for the day. The idea is to simply get your muscles exposed to the load of what you're moving and jumping up to the weight of the day. So I personally like taking weight rep jumps in my warm-ups of maybe 2 to 5 reps, depending on where we're working at, and keeping them on the lower end. So that way, when I do get to my main set, I'm not terribly fatigued. So we're gonna jump up here. Again, keeping it super intentional. Completed my first warm-up set without the barbell, and I'm going to be adding weight to the bar. Now, training experience allows you to kind of know the jumps that you're more comfortable with making and or allowing you to know when you can make bigger jumps versus needing smaller jumps. So keep in mind that this is something that you also do learn with time. Now, stronger people who are working towards heavier loads of ranges of weight, might take more meaningful or bigger jumps. The really, really strong guys might just jump up here to 225 and do that for the next working set. I will not be doing that, and I might do something like adding 25s to the bar here for my next set, or 10s to each side. So let's do that as an example before. So this is 125. We're gonna go 125, 135, 145. And I'm working up to my set of 6. So I'm gonna hop back under the bar here, added 20 pounds to the bar, and I'm gonna go for maybe 2 to 3 reps. And that felt pretty good, and that's my 3 sets total, and so maybe I'm working up to that set of 6 for the day. So I'm gonna take off these 10s. And add these 25s. Now this ideally would be my first working set weight, And when you train, you should be tracking your weights in reps and sets of what you're doing across time and having an idea of where you're trying to aim for that week. So this is where I'm aiming for my sets of 6. I would start my first working set here. Maybe I need a little bit of an extra warm up. Maybe I'm taking another jump in weight before adding on again for my true working set weight. Again, having that flexibility between 2, 3 or 4 total sets that you need to warm up to that weight for the day. And then I'm ready to officially lift and start my full and actual workout. Now, you might have seen all that and thought to yourself, well, what the heck, Alyssa? That seems like a lot of stuff to include in your warm-up. And I'm here to say that I wanted to make sure I just covered all the pieces and components of what can make up your warm-up. But the reality is you really do need to get in and get warm. I love getting in, doing some sort of cardio to get your heart rate pumping and your blood flowing throughout your body, and then moving into some movement patterns that either get you through ranges of motion that feel good and or getting you prepared for the lifting that you're doing that day, sneaking in some core, whatever that looks like, and then getting in and getting under the bar. I know I showed you guys a lot of that middle stuff here today, and I wanted to give you guys ideas and options of what that can look like for you based off how you feel, the time you have, or what you feel like you need, or ways to sneak in some work there before your warm up so you can get in and get moving in a way that's more productive for you. But the reality is that you can simply get on the bike, get moving, get warm, and or get under the bar if you're super short on time. You don't have to have this big fancy mobility or foam rolling or go around the motions preparatory routine. Some of that stuff can help, and some of that stuff for some people might be things that they feel they are required to need. I know personally for me, sometimes doing that stuff allows me to move a little bit better that day, and I'm okay with taking the time to do things like moving through the ranges of motion that I need to prepare for that day of training. But when I'm short on time, I'm simply getting in some cardio and getting under the bar. All in all, this whole warm up itself should not take you that long. We're thinking maybe 5 up to 7 minutes total of doing your warm up, your movement prep, maybe sneaking in some core to your training, and then getting under that bar. You should be under the bar for your working sets within that first 10 minutes of your training session. And this can be really helpful for those of you who find like you don't have enough time to train or you're not getting in your whole entire training session or workout. Personally, in the Lyss Method, we like to make sure that our programs are either 45 to 60 minutes or 60 to 75 minutes, depending on the program that you're doing. But for the busier people that are doing the 45 to 60 minute workouts, we are making sure that that warm up itself is maybe 5 to 7 minutes and you're up, setting up and under the bar within the first 10 minutes of that. So you can get through your compound lifts and movements in that first 20, 30 minutes, move on to your accessory lifts and be in and out of the gym. So don't let your warm up be the thing that stops you from getting in productive training. If you need to cut there, but make sure you're still getting warm and ready for the day. You simply want to get your blood flowing and your neuromuscular recruitment in preparation for the lift that you're trying to do. The rest can just be an added benefit, done on its own time or simply done as needed. Again, I want to remind you guys that I have a free resource here below for you, my reps and sets calculator, that will not only help you figure out how heavy that you should roughly be aiming to lift in the gym, but also give you an idea of how to build your warm-up sets for your main working sets for the day based off the lift or the weight that you are trying to move, because it will change exercise to exercise. And if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos giving you more lifting tips and tricks. And otherwise, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you for being here. You should.